In today's video, we're going to be getting the platinum for Moss. If you don't know what Moss is, it's an action-adventure puzzle game. And obviously, it's a VR game because if you couldn't tell, I really like VR. If there's any games you'd like me to try and platinum in the future, tell me in the comments below. Or if you want, you can roast me. Okay, before we get into it, I'd like to mention Moss is a 3 out of 10 difficulty, takes a total of 2 playthroughs and 7 hours to complete. It also has a total of 32 trophies. For the most part, it's a super easy platinum except for the super annoying trophy, but we'll get to that later on. Okay, to start off the game, it spawned us into this giant empty room and it was just us in this book. Then it jumped us straight into this mini tutorial and it was pretty much showing me how to read, but let's be honest, I can't do that. Starting off the game, it spawned us into this little forest area and we ended up waiting for like 5 minutes for the main character to actually come out. After waiting a little bit, the character finally came out and I instantly ended up grabbing him with my balls. Then we started controlling the rat and it instantly threw us into an obstacle course. After completing the next obstacle course, I ended up finding my first relic, giving me my first trophy. And then after that, I ran into a dark hole. Next, I ended up running into the city, giving me my second trophy. Okay, I'd just like to mention real quick that 0% of you guys are actually subscribed to my channel. So if you're enjoying the videos, please make sure to smash that subscribe button.
You need to shut.
During the next clip, I ended up finding out I can actually interact with the environment to help solve puzzles. And then we ended up making it back to our uncle's house. Hopefully, he's not one of those scary uncles. At the end of every single chapter, they bring you back into this room to like look at the book or something. And then the uncle left and my character got so lonely, he ended up imagining this fairy was there. Then as soon as we left the house, we ended up getting a trophy for following the fairy. Fast forward a little bit, I ended up making it onto this island and I took a bunch of damage from these thorns. And then I unlocked the ability to heal myself, which gave me a trophy. And while I was playing, I ended up being attacked by my cat. Shortly after that, we ended up getting our first look into the combat system. The combat wasn't that bad, but once we completed the combat challenge, I ended up getting a trophy for it. Once I completed the combat challenge, I ended up making my way outside of a temple. And once I entered the temple, it ended up giving me a trophy. And this game really showed how retarded I am. I ended up being stuck in this room for like 20 minutes. Once I went into the next room, I ended up getting into my next combat challenge. I'm not gonna lie, this game's combat is really boring.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm gonna be honest, throughout most of this game, I was half asleep. But I already gave Sony my hard-earned money, so I had to plat the game anyways. As I was doing the combat challenge, I ended up breaking some vases and it gave me a trophy. Once I beat the trial, I ended up standing on this pressure plate and I pulled these stairs from out of the ground. In the next room, I ended up learning how to take over enemies and use them to like open doors. Once I got the enemy to open the door, I ended up getting a trophy. I love controlling them and making them do free labor. As I'm looking back to the footage, I just realized I was in this room for over 10 minutes trying to figure out what to do.
You stupid.
In the next room, after I completed the puzzle, I ended up getting a trophy for high-fiving the mouse. I actually ended up missing a trophy, but here's me getting a trophy in the DLC to replace for that. While doing the DLC without even realizing it, I ended up getting a trophy for breaking a certain amount of thorns. Then as soon as I left the DLC, I ended up lighting these 2 torches and it gave me a trophy for activating the secret shrine. In this next mission, we learned how to take over those bugs that can actually shoot at you. And in my opinion, out of everyone in this game, these bugs are kind of slow. Once we finished this room, I ended up walking into a door and entering a key. Once I entered the key, it ended up giving me a trophy. The area after that ended up being a super long and painful battle challenge. While doing the battle challenge, I ended up running on this tower with the sniper-like guy. I killed him and it gave me a trophy. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't keeping up the story in this game, so we just somehow ended up on a beach. Next, we ended up inside of this mine and we got introduced to a new enemy. What the enemy does is he'll just walk up to you and explode everywhere.
What the fuck?
Right after getting introduced to him, I ended up getting a trophy for entering the mines. Then in the very next room, it was another one of those puzzles where I ended up getting stuck on it for like 2 hours. Because, you know, I'm slow and all. Once I exited the mine, I ended up appearing right outside of a city. Nothing really happened, but when I entered the city, I ended up getting a trophy for it. This city ended up having new type of enemies, and the enemies here were just turrets that never missed. I'm not even kidding. In this one part right here, I ended up dying like 10 times because of it. Once we got past that one part, I ended up going to the main area of the city. And I'm gonna be honest, this city was really lame. Then I ended up walking those main stairs, and when I saw a bunch of boxes, I broke them and it gave me a trophy. In the very next room, it looked like an empty church with nothing but a chest. Once I opened the chest, it ended up giving me a key for a thing I need later on. Then I ended up making my way into another very important room which had another chest, giving me the second part of the key. Now that I had both parts of the key, I was able to go back to the middle area and insert them into this pedestal right here. And then after that, I immediately turned off my PlayStation because I wanted to go to bed.
Stop the cap.
No, but seriously, after I put the keys in the pedestal, I ended up making my way to the very last fighting challenge. Well, in this fighting challenge, I ended up getting a trophy for taking control of the shooting guy and killing another bug with him. After we completed the fighting challenge, the robot ended up turning back on. I quickly had to jump in the sewers so I wouldn't die. Well, in the sewers, we actually ended up getting attacked by a giant snake. Once I ended up climbing out of the sewer cave thing, I ended up getting a trophy just for reaching the new area. Then I ended up climbing up the hill to try and shoot the snake, and I tried shooting it with a crossbow. Obviously that didn't work, so what did I do? I tried it again. Fast forward a little bit, we killed the serpent and ended up giving us a trophy. Then we ended up walking into the castle to then go save the uncle, and then we got hit with the credits. Then about midway through the credits, I ended up getting a trophy for finishing the first game. Okay, now that I beat the game, I'm just gonna go back and get any miscellaneous trophies that I never got. Okay, the first trophy I got was using Quill's sword to cut a bunch of grass. Okay, the next thing I got was in this room, you have to hang on to this box thing throughout the whole reel, and it'll give you a trophy called Cliffhanger. Next, we ended up walking into that church room, and I got a trophy for collecting all the dust relics, and then I got a trophy for breaking everything inside of the church. The very next thing I did was go back to that fight scene area, and I had to kill 2 enemies with 1 suicide bomber. Once I finally did that, it ended up giving me a trophy. Then I ended up going back to the last chapter and getting my last Quill, giving me another trophy. Then I ended up scaring Quill, giving me another trophy. Going back to the temple area, and I ended up defeating an enemy with an aerial attack, giving me a trophy. And then immediately after that, I got a trophy for trying to pet Quill. And then for this next trophy, I had to beat the entire game without dying. Somehow I ended up doing it first try, and once I beat the snake, I walked into the castle, giving me the final trophy. And then that led on to the platinum. Well, that's gonna be all for today's video. If you enjoyed, please make sure to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to tell me what games you want me to plat down in the comments. That's all from me. Have a good one.